So let me just, start by this quote by our former founding Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. And basically, there are going to be unexpected problems, and he, of course, knew it. He saw the problems during those days, and he saw it coming. But I think one of the things that he was trying to tell us is that we have to be prepared with this, of the changes that are coming, and what worked in the past is not necessarily going to work in the future. Disruption, have always been around, and if you look at it since the 1800s, that it was there. So what's the difference? The disruption is there, and I'm going to share today's presentation why it's a lot more worrying. And the reason is that it's multiplied and magnified. The rate at which things are changing is tremendous. 2/3 of the population around the world will be living in cities by 2050. Changing the demographics, you look at the chart on the bottom left, Nigerian population will overtake the US population by 2050. And by 2050, there will be just 2 working age people per 1 elderly person in Europe. And we know that's going to come to Asia, and it's going to come by 2050, which continent will have the biggest population? Africa. Hyperglobalization, how and where we design, sell, manufacture products will become both hyper-global and also hyper-local. We've been talking about this for some time. Think global, act local. The rate of change we are going through today is comparable to what happens in a state of war. In wartime, and those of us who have done NS, we know in a stressful environment, you have to make decisions on the fly. And this is how the rate of change is happening in the real world, not just in war. But the problem is, the things are changing at that pace, but we are not reacting. We are still reacting at the old pace, peacetime pace. Bad news is that many of the big companies that are on the S&P 500 today will not last more than 15 years. So 75% of these companies will be taken off the S&P 500, which means they become insignificant companies or they will die. Are we seeing it in Singapore? Of course. If you look at this was published sometime last year by the Business Times. All the industry sectors, from 2010 to 2016, the rate of company closures, 2016 showed a record in every industry sector, record shutdowns. The difference right now is that in the past, technology especially created more jobs, efficiencies. But today, the rate of job destruction versus the rate of job creation is different. In fact, in the past, creation was better than destruction, but actually it's the other way. And there's a time like our current way of teaching at the undergraduate level, have to change. I think we have to go into a more liberal education system, like liberal arts education like the US, and then go into specialized modules and build up to a degree later on. It has to change. The poor countries, poorest, this is for the world, global impact on people. You can see the rising income for one group of people. The very poor are locked in poverty, the very poor. But then there is this group that is in the higher percentile, their rising incomes in the emerging economies, mainly China, because China population is big and this drives. So then you have the decline of the developed world middle class. The new poor, which the Workers' Party call in Singapore, the new poor. And therefore, we see populism rising. Why? Uninclusive growth, income inequality, as we see everywhere in the world. It's not a Singapore phenomenon. And deglobalization is starting to happen. Look at the import-export over the time period in all the countries around the world. It's changing. And what the impact on business? Localization. So if I'm a company that used to do production here, like Texas Instruments or UTech, and I serve the US market and the rest of the world, I better start thinking about local production right now. Look at the rate at which patents are being filed. In 1911, 1991, and then it goes to 2010. Exponential. Today, you know which country is the one that files the most patents in the world? China. China. Which means that the government is bent on reforming itself to be a trusted place. And then where does it leave countries like Singapore, where we want to be the hub of everything? Disruption caused by technology is estimated that full-time staff reduction in the US and European banks will be about 40-45% reduction by 2020. That's 2 years from now. Oxford in 2013 did this 2017 or 20, anyway, they did this thing about what is the probability of any job being disrupted? So full automation of labor, all human jobs in the world, on the average, will take 125 years to be replaced. So at least we still got some value. The retail salesperson in 15 years will be gone. You don't need any more. Have you all watched the latest development in Amazon Go? You don't need any cashier, you don't need anyone. Just walk in, take your goods, walk out. That's it. Transaction happen. No one needs to be down there. And then you look at clergy, priests, 0.0 won't be disrupted. I mean, when we are without jobs and we are stressed with the disruption, we need to go and see our priest for counseling, And then the counselor and so. But look at commercial pilots, 55% probability of the job being disrupted, which means autonomous planes, not far, right? And then you go down the line among the professional accountants and auditors, 94%. If you are an accountant, be cautious. So as businesses, why is it that we need to adopt technology? You look at this chart on the price to revenue ratio and look on the extreme right, Uber, Airbnb, TripAdvisor, eBay, 8.2, more valuable than the asset builders. Platform economy, which is the gig sharing economy and so on, they have better valuation than the. What Apple did was they create this platform and everything has to go through me. And the financial choke point is now Apple. I collect the money. Alibaba did the same thing, Alipay. And Alipay also does trade financing and they're doing all sorts of this. So platform technology basically transform Apple. 3 ways companies can do this. One is buy technology. Through corporate venturing, you set up a fund. Singtel and many of the companies in Singapore have done it, and all the big companies around the world have got their own Intel. They've got this, they fund companies and then they take stakes in it. Build yourselves, Kankworks I talked about, R&D, commercial, or acquire, partner, get licensing from technologies that others have, and then do it yourself. Nick Goving, he was a visiting professor in NTU he wrote about the lost art of leadership. And he used this term called de-responsibilization, very difficult to pronounce, by the frozen middle. And it's happening in governments. And why? Frozen middle and middle management. And why is this happening? They refuse to move. Things are changing, but they are the one who are blocking all the changes. The effects are top management don't get to hear about it. Why risk it? No, kill the messenger. So if I'm a middle manager and there's something happening, I block it. Better don't let the top management hear about it. Otherwise, I'll be killed. So kill it halfway. Bright people rise to the top but leave because you have mavericks who really have ideas, but they leave because no one listens to them. We can create new mini organizations. Their departments come up with new ideas. Red teams, independent teams, contrarian thinkers, challenge the conventional wisdom. I tried to play that role in Parliament. I challenged everything that was not right. Energize the frozen middle, train, mentor, empower. But if they don't change, fire them because they're going to kill your organization. And create safe spaces, allow people to make mistakes, confront risk awareness in some areas. Don't kill the mavericks, they can be visionaries, and treat crazy ideas seriously. In the closed innovation model, everything done internally, but that's how much can you invest in areas that you're not familiar with, So everything is internal and therefore then you serve one market. In the open innovation model, you do what you can internally, but you also work with other companies with the technology, bring them into your company, make them work in your market, or create new markets that you're not already serving based on the technology that's developed by a startup somewhere, using my whole infrastructure and my networks, and I can actually serve a new market or my existing market. And I always say that, if you want to survive in this disruptive environment, you have to start thinking like startup. Startups are not small versions of large corporations. Startups are agile and they move faster. How do we cope with strategic shock? You can be a lean and efficient organization like government and big companies, or you can be a resilient organization like startup. In fact, one of our problems here in Singapore, and in many big companies and other countries too, is overemphasizing efficiency. And then this can render organizations unable to respond rapidly to unexpected shock. Why big companies die? Disruptors have high innovation velocity. They move very fast. Disruption happens in a non-linear and exponential manner. complacency, no sense of urgency, not thinking like startup, blindsided. And I give two examples. One is those, do you remember Blockbuster videos? When I used to go to US, I used to see them, big chain all over renting videos. And then Netflix. 2004, Blockbuster had 9,000 stores at the peak. They started online rental now, and the market cap was 4.5 billion, a revenue of 6 billion. Whereas Netflix by 2004 was 500 million, share price $5. Then from then on, they went downhill, and look, the rest is history. So this is where, Blockbuster had a chance to adopt the technology. They also could have done what Netflix did, but they lost, and so they are gone. Imagine a new disruptor takes just 1% of market share in year one. Disruptor doubles market share every year. By the 7th year, the disruptor gets 100% of the market, and the incumbent who was 100% before year one, gone. You think this scenario can happen? Happened before? Yes, it did. Nokia. Look at in 2007, market share for Nokia was 37%. And Apple was 0%. And then you look at the growth of Apple and the Android system, and they've got the whole market right now. And this happened in the span of 7 years.